Joining us now to discuss the police presence in these protests, CBS Law Enforcement Contributor and former Deputy Commissioner with the NYPD, our weekly guest, Richard Esposito. Mr. Esposito, good to see you. How are you?
Good morning, Chris.
All right, so these protests, they're not showing any signs of stopping right now, and we don't anticipate them stopping anytime soon. So what does the NYPD have to do to keep these protesters from getting violent?
You know, I think, as you observe the behavior of police, you can see that they are taking great care to be sure that just their presence doesn't inflame any violence. If you look at the video, you'll see police backing up with regularity, keeping their distance whenever possible, keeping that thin blue line to allow people their right to protest, even though the speech can be hateful, vitriolic, and as long as it doesn't cross the line, the police are trying to give them the space to protest.
Now, I know you're talking about physical line, but when you say cross the line, police are used to dealing with people, whether it's a protest like this, where protesters voicing their concern over the cause that they're protesting, or it's just people, lobbing vitriol at police in general. If you're an officer, and obviously you've been in that position, I guess how much self-control does one need to have when you're being verbally abused to just kind of step back, keep your mouth shut, and take? I know we put police in a very difficult position with some people, and we have video and we've shown protesters that are actually going after the cops rather than going after the cause.
Police are an easy target. They might be the wrong target, but they're an easy target. So a young officer out on the street facing people who are abusing him or her really has to have a great deal of discipline and a great deal of control. And we've been through a lot of protests. George Floyd, Occupy Wall Street, Republican Convention in 2004. And you can see when the leadership gives police direction to maintain an approach that is calm and forceful, but calm, they do a very good job. They're doing a very good job in New York at these two, the protest at NYU and the protest at Columbia, with allowing the protest. At the same time, Mayor Adams has made very clear there is a line the city will not allow to be crossed. That anti-Semitism will not be tolerated.
Yeah. You're looking at Columbia here. The NYPD says they've got pretty limited ability to conduct some operations on property there. I want to sort of play you some sound real quick from a press conference Monday with Deputy Commissioner of Legal Matters for the NYPD. This is Michael Gerber. This is what he had to say. I'll ask you to respond on the back end.
First, I just want to start with the sort of key point, which is Columbia University is private property. And so the nature of police action, what we can do, what we can't do, is very, very different on private property than it is on a public street.
So what is the big difference there? I mean, do they really have to take an even further step back because it is on private property?
The Fourth Amendment to the Constitution prohibits, illegal search and seizure of private property. That's great. This is private property and open space being used as a public forum. And one of the things police are doing is reminding the university it's their job to police their space. It's their job to make sure their students get the right to education. And it's their job to make sure their students are not threatened with physical violence. If the university can't do their job, there is a role for police. And that line can be crossed if necessary. There is a reason to go on private property, then you can. He's a very, very good lawyer, the police department's deputy commissioner, and he's speaking very accurately about the general rule.
And just last question before I let you go, we've got to be quick with this one. You talk about these protests as unlawful protests. I know the demonstrations, they've been called that, but like the student encampment, they seem somewhat calm. So what constitutes unlawful?
That's a fascinating question. I mean, what constitutes unlawful? I mean, there's unlawful behavior, as you know, and we have a wide latitude for hate speech in this country. It's one of the values of this country. So unlawful protest includes violence, throwing bottles, abusing, blocking your access to public space. Those things are unlawful, and those things can be prosecuted.
Well, Richard, thank you very much for taking the time. The one question I didn't have a chance to ask you is why it seems like all those tents were bought at the same store. It's incredible when you look. It looks like there may be a Campmore that was raided down the street from where this encampment is taking place at Columbia. And even looking at some of the NYU one on the inside halls, it's all the same tents. They seem to be shopping at the same store. We thank you, Richard. It's good to talk with you once again. Our law enforcement expert, Richard Esposito. We'll have continuing coverage on the protests on our website, cbsnewyork.com. You can check out all of the information there in case you've missed anything the last couple of days.